Stick around and I'll show you how I built this fully adjustable router jig for cutting out this style of handle and cutting boards using a plunge router.
Frank does it.
So the first thing we'll do is we'll cut all of our pieces out according to the cut list. I'm using 1/2-inch Baltic birch plywood. You can use whatever stock you want, but I recommend the Baltic birch because it's a premium plywood. It has 9 different plies in it. It's super strong, stable, all that. The only thing I won't be cutting exactly to the final dimensions are the bottom rails. I need to laminate 2 of these pieces together, and so I don't want to worry about being perfect on that. So I'm going to laminate these pieces. This is obviously bigger than those bottom rails, but I'll laminate these and then I'll true them all up, then cut them to the final dimension after the glue up. So let's go over to the table saw and cut all this stuff up. So for making these crosscuts, I'm going to be using this crosscut sled that I made. It's based upon the Microjig Ultimate Crosscut Sled. I'll leave a link to the video and a link to the free downloadable plans. If you guys want to go make one, you totally don't need a crosscut sled to do this. You can cut these crosscuts over on the miter saw if you want. But anyways, this is what I'm going to do. I've got this fence dialed in so good that it'll be, I mean, if you could call it perfect, it's going to be pretty dang close to perfect. So that's how I'm going to cut these. Let's get after it. So we got our pieces cut. The next thing we want to do is find the center of our base piece and do that by drawing a diagonal line from each corner, just right in the middle. Where these 2 lines intersect will be the exact center of this piece. And that's where we're going to drill our hole for the router. Get yourself an 1.25" Forstner bit or hole saw, whatever you want to use. We want the center hole to be 1.25". At least that's what I'm doing. Set yourself something down so you don't drill into your bench, and then go to town. Okay, now that we got our hole cut, we want to go ahead and grab our router. We want to take this base off and use it as a template. Take these screws out, don't lose them because we need them. Take the base plate off, throw it on here, check it out, see if you like the orientation of everything. Before we go too much further, we'll go ahead and check, make sure our base fits within these pieces that'll be glued on later. Looks like a good fit. I did some research, and most routers that plunge routers that I found actually do have a 6-inch base like mine. But you'll see like how my router handles are a little bit kind of tweaked. But I want them to be kind of straight in a straight line like this, just for ease of movement. So one kind of reference point that I have, what I'm looking at here, is these 2 guide holes right here, which those translate onto the router base. So the router base has those 2 little plastic pieces right here that kind of line up with these guides. So I'm going to use that as a point of reference for marking the holes as opposed to symmetrically, because these holes, you know, looking at them symmetrically like a triangle, your guides are cockeyed to the left. So you'll have to finagle that with your own router. But before you glue these on and before you get too crazy drilling holes and stuff, check how yours fits. The fact that these are recessed means this was down on top of the router. So this is also going to be down on top of the router. So we'll make sure that we put it in this orientation full disclosure, I made one earlier where I didn't inverse this plate. So when I went to mount it to the router, that's what it looked like. See? So you could have got it on the router, but it wasn't going to be symmetrical looking how I wanted it to end up. So make sure you think about how the plate sits on the router and that this is also going to sit on the router in order to leave a nice little hole for the screws to go into. We'll go ahead and use a 1/2 inch Forstner bit. That little chunk there, at least on mine, is 3/8 of an inch, which will leave an 1/8 of an inch of meat. And that little point there will actually give us a little nice divot. Yeah, just like that. There won't be any dovetail tracks going in on this very corner here. That's about all I can do in the way of brad nails. So I'll be having some tracks getting routed in through here. I think on this one, instead of brad nails, I'll try something a little different. That worked well with the star bond instead of brad nails. Brad nails don't really hold it on there, hold it in the right spot. It doesn't actually keep it from sliding around very much. That star bond though held it right in place. Held it right where I put it. Do you even match fit, bro? All right, so now that the glue's dry, we'll go ahead and get all this stuff out of clamps. So we got our base. Then we'll go ahead and take our rail piece out of clamps, and then we'll take it over to the table saw and turn it into its final dimensions. All right, let's go cut it up. So this is just a quick and dirty jointing sled that I made. I mean, it's literally just a piece of plywood that's straight on both sides with dovetail tracks cut into it. Can't get any more basic than this. But anyways, you know, I didn't want to have to try to get this glue line perfect, so I just made this a little bit bigger. There will be 2 rails come out of this. So I'm just going to clean up one edge with the jointing sled here. Bring it over here. We just want to take off a tiny bit just to give us a straight line and also to clean up our glue squeeze out. Okay, so we got our clean edge there. Just mark it with a J for jointed. And then we'll go ahead and put this clean side up against the fence to rip our 2 rails. Okay, we got our 2 rail pieces cut. Now we just need to cut them to length. So now we'll go ahead and mark our mounting hole location for our Matchfit hardware. So we'll go ahead and mark where we're going to drill our holes. Today's video is sponsored by Microjig. I wanted to show you one of their brand new products called BLADECLEAN. It's a revolutionary, fast, easy way to clean your saw blades and router bits. If you're interested, I'll put a link down in the description. All right, now let's go over to the drill press. Okay, so now that we have our holes drilled in the stop, this will be the adjustable stop. We'll go ahead and glue on the stop piece. I'm just going to use some CA glue here to kind of help with the glue up here, and then some wood glue. And we'll spray some accelerator on our other piece. And we'll go ahead and glue them up. Just gonna hold it here until the CA glue takes hold. We should be good there. Looks good. And then we'll go ahead and set this aside to dry, and we'll glue up our other one. Now that we have all of our pieces cut and assembled, we'll go ahead and mark out where we want our dovetail tracks to be. Giving myself some reference marks on this edge so that when I go to line it up with the bit, I can see those lines. And then we'll mark where we want them on the bottom. So I went ahead and marked these. I'm going to transfer those marks over to onto the edge. All right, let's go cut these out. If you don't have one of these, I highly recommend it. It's a depth gauge specifically for the Matchfit dovetail grooves. So first we need to cut relief cuts in here before we take it with a dovetail bit. So for that, I'm going to use just the 1/8 inch wide saw blade. We want to get it down to the depth for the relief cut. Now that we've got the dovetail tracks cut, one more thing I need to do, and this is optional, but I'm going to route a little bit of a recess through here, and I'm going to put measuring tape along here, which will help with your the rail adjustment. This is the stuff I'm using. So I think the goal is I want to have it perfectly in the center of these two dovetail grooves. And this tape is 3/4 inch wide. So I got a 3/4 inch straight bit. So now I'm going to find the center. And I'm just going to mark right next to the little tape measure groove that we cut. And I wish I could have found some tape that had a 0 and then went both ways, but I couldn't. So I just bought 2 of these. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put the 3 in the middle. Go ahead and slap this in there. I might throw some CA glue in here just for good measure. Just a little bit. I don't want this peeling out. I'm gonna line that 3 up right perfect there. That 3 right on the line. Now when you go to tighten down your thing, you can make sure you're parallel across. You can line it up on the inch. So now you should be perfectly parallel. Okay, so I think we're ready for final assembly. We got everything ready. We got our stoppers, our rails, and we got all of our hardware. We'll go ahead and slide these in here. And we'll go ahead and line these up, the holes that we drilled. Everything goes good. We'll have a perfect fit. So now we can throw these on. We'll throw the rest of these in. Throw our other rail on there. We got our router, and let's go ahead and mount this jig onto the router. We've got our factory router plate screws. Okay, now we can add our stoppers, our adjustable wings. For these, I'm using these shorter ones and these little, these knobs. I like them a lot better for this. These ones down here, these knobs, they tend to get in the way of your router handle and everything, so that's why I use these little knobs for this part. There's one. Okay, and you just slide these into the dovetail tracks, and that's how you get your adjustability there. So for the time being, I'll just run them all the way in, tighten them down. Same for this side.
That's a wrap. You can grab the plans in the description. Please click over here to watch part 2 where I show you how to use this and how to set it up. If you haven't already, please click on my logo down here to subscribe. I'd greatly appreciate it. You can also follow me on my social media accounts that are listed below. I post there very frequently so you can see how I'm doing in my shop and what I have going on in my personal life. Thanks for coming by. I greatly appreciate you, and God bless you.